Mario Maker is arguably one of the biggest games for the Nintendo community. It may not be the most popular out of every one of Nintendo's franchises, but it's one that literally generates such an amazing community of people that come together making levels, playing levels, and even just sharing levels across the globe. The game that really never ends, where for years and years people continue to find new and creative ways to make levels and utilize tools unlike anyone has seen before. Mario Maker is such an amazing platformer for creators and also just for fans of 2D Mario. But what is the future of this series, and does it go any further past the Nintendo Switch with Mario Maker 2? That's what I'm here to talk about today. With the Switch 2 on the horizon, we are obviously waiting to see what kind of games are going to be coming to this new console. And one of the things that we're going to be waiting for is Super Mario Maker 3. Is it possible? Is it likely? Is it going to happen? That's what we're here to talk about today. But before we get started, stop what you're doing, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We are super close to 300,000 subscribers, and you can make it happen very, very soon by just leaving a like and subscribing. It'll only take a second. Let's see how many people we can get from this one video. But thank you so much for tuning in, and let's dive in to the future of Mario Maker. Mario Maker 1 came out on the Wii U in 2015 and was an instant hit. Especially on a dying console, people still absolutely love this game, and it was everywhere. People were really excited to be able to actually create their own 2D Mario levels. And then it only took an extra 4 years later until we saw its sequel, Super Mario Maker 2, which added tons of new course parts, enemies, power-ups, and a brand new game style with Super Mario 3D World, a 3D game that was predominantly placed in 2D, which was kind of weird, wacky, and cool at the same time. But overall, if you ask most people, myself included, what Mario Maker 2 felt like, and it felt like a deluxe version of the first game. Just the same thing, but more and better, and a lot of people loved it. Of course, on an actual successful console this time around, Mario Maker 2 would prove to be very, very popular amongst the Nintendo community once again, where people are creating some of the craziest levels I've ever seen. With a 4-year gap, does that mean that we see Mario Maker 3 in 2023? Well, we already passed that. That was last year, and nope, there was no Mario Maker 3. And we're in 2024, almost halfway through the year, and still no Super Mario Maker 3. So odds are they're not going to have another one on the Nintendo Switch. We might be looking at somewhere along 6 to 7 years until the next Mario Maker if it does happen. Another question to ask is it even something that's likely to happen? Has it been selling well enough for Nintendo to continue the series? Well, the first game did not sell that well at all compared to some of the other titles, and the fact that it is a dying console. For instance, it was placed at number 7 on the top selling Wii U games with 4 million copies sold. And I'm sure Nintendo wanted this to be a lot higher considering the fact that it was a Mario game. The top 3 games on the Wii U were Mario games. Now, it's not saying that this was bad or anything like that considering the fact that Mario Kart 8 only sold 8.4 million on the Wii U and it's at like 60 something on the Switch. So yeah, the Wii U it just hurt everything back then. How well did it do on the Switch with Super Mario Maker 2? I mean, that's the thing that's important after all. Well, it still is in the top 25 Switch games at 8.42 million. But I'm not gonna lie, I think Nintendo, and myself included, expected this to sell a lot better, at least in the double digits, around the 10 million mark. Don't get me wrong, 8 million is still pretty massive, and it is technically a new series for Nintendo, even though it is 2D Mario and uses past 2D Mario games as its foundation. But still, I would be willing to bet Nintendo expected this to be a lot bigger and better than what it was. But at the end of the day, like I said, it did feel like a deluxe version of the original Mario Maker, and it probably needed a lot more things to it to make it stand out on its own, and I don't know, maybe that's why it didn't sell as much as some of the greats on the Switch, but it still is up there, like I said, in the top 25. But with around 4 million and 8 million, is this enough to continue the series? I think it is. I think Nintendo realizes that they've only made 2 of these so far and that there's still a lot that they can do with the Mario Maker series, and I think there is some room in the future for another Mario Maker. It may not be as clear of a future like the next 3D Mario or the next Luigi's Mansion or Mario Kart along those lines, but it is pretty likely, I'd say, that we will get another Mario Maker on Switch 2. But the question is, what does Nintendo need to do to secure some extremely good sales? Do they just continue to make it another deluxe version of the last, where they add another new game style and maybe some course parts through some updates, and that's about it? No, I think Nintendo actually has to go pretty big with this next one and do something that we are not even expecting. I know I have said this a million times, and if you've been a fan of my channel for any time frame, you've noticed that I've talked about this video a lot, just because I feel like the idea is so amazing. And Aristotle on YouTube actually made a concept trailer for what this could look like. A 3D Mario Maker, or Mario Maker 3D, would be so amazing. I mean, we already have so many endless possibilities in a 2D playing field, but what if we had 3 dimensions? What if we were able to create our own Mario 64, Mario 3D World, Mario Odyssey levels? That would be so awesome. Now, obviously, it would not be to the extent of a Nintendo dev team actually working on fully fledged worlds and levels, but more along the lines of floating platforms and stars we can place in order to reach the goal. That way, we have to flip or twirl or do a specific task in order to reach the star. That just makes things feel so different in a 3D Mario game. I mean, this would be phenomenal, and I feel like this is the type of game that would be that 15-20 million copies sold. I mean, probably even more than that. I could see people making levels for years and years and years with a 3D Mario Maker, and I know a lot of people will say it's just not possible, and I don't think that's the case. There's definitely a simplistic way to go about this, and I think Nintendo could make this a reality, and I think this is the right direction that they need to go. They could always add more game styles, and I'll get into that in a second, but simply having a 3D Mario Maker, or at least one style that's in 3D, would just change the game forever, especially considering the fact with the rumors right now suggesting that the next 3D Mario game is going to be an open world experience. I feel like Nintendo's still gonna miss the mark with some of their hardcore 3D platforming Mario enthusiasts that miss the action of Galaxy and Mario 3D World, and this is a perfect way to capture that back again by having players actually create levels like this. That would be amazing, and it just sounds too good to be true. I know I can't tell you how long I would play a game like this, but I know it's up to Nintendo to make this happen. And I think taking a long break, like 7, maybe even 8 years to get this thing right, could be worthwhile for them. What if Nintendo says, no 3D Mario Maker yet? We still have tons of game styles we could add, and it's true, they do. There's lots. In fact, I made a video with like 15 different game styles that they could incorporate into the 2D plane if they wanted to, that didn't need to be 3D. That even included 3D games that could be worked into 2D. I said things like Mario Land, even though it's very boring 2D Mario, I'm sorry, it is. Actual Mario Brothers 2 style instead of just a mushroom that changes how Mario works. I know the whole style of that game is completely different, where you can actually jump on enemies' heads and you pick things up. It's very different than the other Mario Brothers games, especially considering the fact that it was Doki Doki Panic first, but I completely understand why Nintendo hasn't done this one yet, because it's just a completely different thing compared to the rest, but it could happen. You could even move towards a spin-off like Yoshi's Island, incorporating Yoshi and Baby Mario together, where you can actually toss eggs at enemies. It could pull from some of the other new Super Mario Brothers games, like the original on the DS, which did look a little different. Does it play entirely different? No, and it probably would not excite a lot of people, but they could also do the same thing with New Super Mario Brothers 2, which is slightly different as well and has some slightly different mechanics. Like I said before, they could even pull from 3D Mario games like they did with Mario 3D World and slap it into a 2D Mario Maker game style like Mario 64, maybe even Super Mario Sunshine, where of course you could have FLUDD, where maybe you can hover over certain sections or use your spray nozzle just to spray enemies. This one I brought up a little too much, but Mario Galaxy just makes a lot of sense in a 2D plane, especially considering the fact that there's a lot of Mario Galaxy levels that has Mario moving in a 2D plane. There could just be some really cool gravity mechanics where you're moving on the side of the wall or maybe up on the ceiling. Mario Odyssey would be amazing, also having 2D segments, but also you could use Cappy to transform into certain enemies. Maybe they don't let you do every enemy, of course, but maybe just the enemies that were in Super Mario Odyssey, like the Hammer Bros, Goombas, or the Uproots. That would be pretty cool, and I feel like there's a lot of cool puzzles and designs we could do with a Super Mario Odyssey 2D Mario Maker game. Of course, you got Super Mario Bros. Wonder now, where maybe they give us a set amount of Wonder events to use. Of course, the movesets are a lot different, and maybe allowing us to play with all the additional characters in that game as well would be pretty cool, especially with those new power-ups with the elephant, and obviously the bubble and drill would be really cool to have as well. But I mean, we could sit here and go on and on forever with like the Wario games and Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and there's so many different game styles Nintendo could do if they really wanted to push the limits of a 2D Mario Maker game. But personally, even though I would love to see all of these game styles incorporated, something about a 3D Mario Maker just sounds so perfect to me. It sounds like the game that Nintendo should do, especially since they just had Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I feel like maybe 2D Mario Makers should take a break and maybe try 3D Mario Maker at least one time and see how it does. It could be the biggest thing for them, or it could be a very, very bad thing for them for some reason. I don't know. But I think this would be a lot of fun, giving the community creative freedom to make not only 2D levels, but 3D ones as well. Of course, with Switch 2 coming out, which is going to be a lot more powerful apparently, I think there's a chance we could see something along the lines of a 3D Mario Maker, or at least a bigger improvement than what Mario Maker 1 did to Mario Maker 2. We're just going to wait and see what Nintendo's plans are for the future of Mario Maker though, but I'm very excited for the future. Let me know in the comments down below what you think the future of Mario Maker holds. Are we going to get a brand new Mario Maker? Is it going to stay with the 2D game styles, or will they move to 3D? Let me know down below, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya guys.